Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The world is waking up to the indoctrination that ourselves and our kids are subject to in our formative years. Today, I'm bringing on Johnny, one of the creators behind the Tuttle Twins. Now, the Tuttle Twins is a base cartoon with over 150 million views that actually I found myself enjoying a lot as of late. It is designed to teach kids clear and critical thinking, hard money principles, and constitutional values. Johnny, it's a real pleasure to have you join us today. How are you this morning, mate?
I'm doing so well. Thanks so much for having me.
Mate, such a pleasure. Like I was saying before we went live, I've been watching a lot of cartoons lately, watching them in the evening, just winding down. And I don't feel like I'm rotting my brain in so many ways. So I guess before we get into it, we watched a very dystopian video of Christine Lagarde a couple of seconds before we went live. But before we dive into that, like, what's the point behind Tuttle Twins? How did it come about and how was it made? If you can just give us a quick 2 or 3 minute rundown behind the creation of this pretty cool cartoon, man.
Sure. So we had a good friend named Connor Boyack, and he has just such a freedom fighter. He passes laws and has a political think tank that just helps create more freedom. And he was trying to explain to his kids what he does. And he couldn't find any books out there that broke it down. Like, what are free market principles? What is libertarianism? What is freedom? And so he wrote his own. And he was just writing him for his own kids. And then they started to take off. He called it the Tuttle Twins. And he eventually sold 1 million books. We approached Connor at that time. myself and my co-founder Daniel Harmon, and we said, "Hey Connor, we're coming from this ad side. We've done some funny, crazy internet ads like Squatty Potty, Poopery, Purple Mattress, Louis deodorant. If you've seen any of those, and we developed this unique and weird skill set of both educating and entertaining with these ads. Yeah. And we thought, Connor, we're itching to do something else. What if we took your books and we made them into a cartoon for kids and we adapted him just like kind of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where this could be the MCU of the comics?" And Connor loved the idea. We brought it to the crowd and we said, "Hey, parents, are there anybody that would want to invest in this idea?" And we broke crowdfunding records. And this was like before COVID, when fiat was strong and and people were still feeling, woke culture in closing. And it was incredible. Like we raised like over $4.5 million to fund season 1. And it's been a ride since then. We did season 1, season 2. Now we're on season 3. And like you said, we've been fortunate to get, millions of people to see the show. And it's been really gratifying.
Yep. One of the tweets that you guys put up here is people often accuse us of indoctrinating kids. No, doy. That's what teaching is. The difference is, unlike some shows in schools, we don't hide the lessons we teach from parents. It's right on the package. Parents don't like it. They don't show it to their kids. May contain Austrian economics, constitutional values, entrepreneurship, critical thinking, Bitcoin, etc. Have noticed a couple of Bitcoin episodes below in the description under Tuttle Twins. I have put the clip about the Bitcoin. But like, can you just dive into sort of how you structure each episode, I guess, to teach an important lesson, and why you think those lessons that, like, you're spending an exorbitant amount of money on animating, you obviously believe that it's very important to be able to focus that energy in. You're not funded from outside. You're not taking government subsidies. So, like, why those particular topics, Austrian economics, constitutional values, critical thinking, Bitcoin?
Yeah, honestly, we're kind of first principles. We want to teach our kids things, and we just make what we want for our kids. And then as well, because we're beholden to our investors and the parents that fund us, we ask them like, "Hey, what do you want to teach your kids?" And then parents clearly tell us. And it's pretty awesome. Like, we don't have 3 Hollywood executives. We have thousands of parents that tell us what they want, and then thousands of parents will share it when it comes out. And so in terms of like the structure of an episode, I mean, the Tuttle Twins are these, 11-year-old twins who have a grandma with a time traveling, dimension hopping wheelchair. And, so they have their real kid problems in their kid world. And that's generally the structure of each episode is like, oh man, this is happening. And then grandma says, that sounds a lot like central planning. Let's go learn from, and then they blast off and meet historical figures and then, have funny, crazy adventures and dimensions that kids love. So that's the gist of it. It's always, a bit crazy, a bit off the wall, but also, we can teach and introduce our kids to figures that we'd love them to learn more.
Yep. And like when you're doing your research, because you're obviously taking like a little bit of creative freedom, how do you balance the creative freedom side with the signal, making sure kids are getting indoctrinated, I guess, in the right way? Because everything's propaganda.
Yep. Yeah. Propagating ideas. Yeah. If you don't propagate ideas to your kid, someone else will. And probably ideas you don't agree with. Well, for us, we always try and be like airtight with the data and with the literature that we use. So for instance, when we did an episode called The Inflation Monster, we based that off of the creature from Jekyll Island. And so we try and find original works, and then we try and base these episodes, at least the education, along those points. And then we also have Connor Boyack, the author of the books. He executive produces every episode and helps us make sure that we're teaching, in a very factual, in a representative way to each of these thinkers.
Yep. So before we get into Lagarde, I think that'll be a pretty good rip. It's pretty dystopian, this video that Simply Bitcoin has shared this morning. But the gentleman had already created the Tuttle Twins series and stuff. I assume that you've gone through all the books that were pre-existing, and now you're working in lockstep, or are there still books to go through to create episodes over, or sort of now they're coming out at the same time?
It takes a long time to write books, and we are a machine. And granted, we don't, I'd say the books go deep in each of the subjects they carry, they cover. And the show, by nature of it being a cartoon, we go more shallow into the education on each one, but we try and be as clear and entertaining as possible. So there's like one book that we haven't covered so far, but I mean, maybe they'll create a book a year on their side, and we do 12, 15 episodes a year. So we have to kind of keep pushing it and go into new territory, all while, making sure that it's, airtight with the ideologies and with the research.
Oh, absolutely awesome. So this video is Simply Bitcoin shared this morning. Christine Lagarde, president of the European Central Bank, accused of allowing the misuse of public funds, speaks on Bitcoin and says if there's an escape, that escape will be used. I'll just play this one for everyone, and then I'd love to hear your thoughts.
It's a matter that needs to be agreed at a global level, because if there is an escape, that escape will be used. So I think it needs to be if anything, it shows that global cooperation, multilateral action is absolutely needed.
Absolutely insane there, Johnny. What are your thoughts on Lagarde, arguably one of the most powerful people in the world?
Whoa. It feels like the captain of the Titanic is, blocking off the lower decks and popping the lifeboats. That is some totalitarian, disgusting verbal vomit. That's what I'd say. I think she vastly underestimates the power of the people below deck.
Yeah. And obviously in the world, especially here in the West, I feel like we're seeing a lot of this totalitarianism rise up, especially over the last 4 years. I feel like they've been walking in that direction for quite a while. But humans together in a group are powerful, and there's more of us than them. I guess from like an education point of view, how are you seeing people's mindsets at the moment? Are they waking up to this like verbal diarrhea, or are people just like really subjecting themselves and their children to the propaganda and buying it and being programmed with that messaging and they're just going along with it.
You know, I was just talking about this last night with a friend. I'm more hopeful than ever before. I think COVID and the totalitarianism around it woke people up. I think there's more homeschoolers now more than ever. I think people are questioning. They're verifying. They're not just trusting. And I think, yeah, the Overton window is shifting. People are waking up everywhere. And so I'm very encouraged by this. I don't think that they could pull another lockdown COVID response without massive pushback. And I think, I think we're just in a really good time where the internet is flourishing and people are flourishing, and we're seeing that in all the comments. We're seeing that in, you know, everyone from kids to adults to 20 and 30 somethings that are like, wow, I never learned this in school. Thank you, Tuttle Twins, for teaching me. So boots on the ground, very encouraged by the whole shift.
Yep. And one of the conversations that we're having before the live was, for one of the episodes you read Safety and a Moose, the Bitcoin standard, and that turned you into a hardcore Bitcoin maxi. What's your Bitcoin journey been like personally, Johnny?
Yeah. So I joined the ad agency I worked at, you know, before Tuttle Twins. I was there for 6 years, but I joined right around 2016, and I hadn't invested in anything. And I got into Ethereum because one of the libertarian colleagues I had was like, oh yeah, get Ethereum and a little Bitcoin. And so since early on, I've been into it. But I think before writing that episode, I was a crypto fan. Yeah. And then after writing that episode and putting in all the proof of work, research, and reading the Bitcoin standard, I was a Bitcoin maximalist. So I think putting in the hours, it just does something to you where you realize, gosh, Bitcoin is sound money. And it also saves so much time with all the opportunity costs and all the other things around you that can pull your attention, your money, your time.
Yeah. My belief, Johnny and I had a similar journey with crypto and then going hardcore Bitcoin maxi. And I believe it's just the time it takes. Do you feel like Bitcoin's obviously very volatile? I don't believe there's any risk, but when you're talking to people about it, do you communicate the volatility, or do you have like a rebuttal to that? Because obviously, like, when you put in the hours, it's very easy to see, hey, we just buy a stack and chill and we just hold it forever, you know, and have a low time preference. But do you have any of those conversations with people like, nah, it's too expensive, or hey, it drops 20 or 30% on any given day for no reason whatsoever? How's that turn out in your conversations?
Yeah, I mean, I think it totally depends on who I'm talking to. But we try and, you know, in our cartoons, we try and just show, yes, see, it is still volatile, but that's because only, you know, 1% of the world owns some. And as it gets more adopted, it's going to be less so. And treat it like a long-term savings account, not a get-rich-quick scheme. So, like, I think when we put it in that way, I've gotten much better responses from people. But I would say, I mean, in my conversations changes based on if I'm talking to kids or if I'm talking to my brother or if I'm talking to somebody else. So, yeah.
Yeah. And do you reckon those conversations have changed? Like in my own life, since BlackRock in particular came to the space, since Wall Street's come to the space, I'm a huge advocate for self-custody. I've found those conversations a little bit easier because now it's endorsed by the big man, Larry Fink. I guess two questions there. What are your thoughts on Wall Street and Bitcoin and Larry Fink? And then, you know, is it beneficial for bringing people into the space because now it's endorsed by the traditional players?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely beneficial, net positive. Just the overall conversation, and I think it just takes generations to accept a new idea, right? And if someone as established as BlackRock, albeit corrupt as BlackRock, can, you know, come and endorse Bitcoin, I think it actually makes people have to think, okay, maybe it's not just the crazy, you know, libertarian hippie nephew kind of thing. Maybe it's something else. So yeah, I think I'm hopeful that more and more people will start to wake up. I don't see that happening before we reach 100,000 a Bitcoin. I don't know what that equates to in Aussie dollars.
It's like 170,000, I think. 160,000. Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's all
150.
psychological. Yeah. 150.
Our dollar's so bad, man. It's everywhere. Fiat, it's all the same. It's all going to zero against Bitcoin. We're just going down quicker than the US. But like, I think the same thing, Johnny. Like 100K, I don't like, people are worried we're at $68,000 today. I'll bring up the block clock in a second. It really doesn't matter. I don't think the game's on until we get to 100K for the average person. And I understand this market is being driven by retail predominantly, which is absolutely great. But that retail is like the small, like, it's just such a small percentage. It's like the first people out of the majority are here. What do you see taking us from, say, 68,000 where we are now to 100K? Like, first we need that jump, and then once we get to 100K, that's when the game's really on. I think the momentum will build itself, but between now and then, like Wall Street, they're buying $2 billion in the last couple of weeks worth. The price isn't moving much. We've talked about that in depth in the channel, why that may be. What are your thoughts for us to fill this gap?
Yeah, I have a lot of theories, but obviously, nobody really knows Bitcoin. I mean, it always seems that, like, in the fall, investments tend to go crazier than in the summer when everyone's out on vacation. I also think, sorry, I lost my train of thought here. So, like, people are just opening up their minds to it. I think pension funds take a long time to adopt it. You just had the biggest bank in China basically give the rubber stamp of approval on Bitcoin is better than gold. So I think some of these whales will certainly tip the scales more. But until we see, I don't know. I mean, I think SBF and what's his cryptocurrency that went FTX? I think that set the industry back, months and months, if not years. And so many people are, when I was trying to talk to my parents about, hey, I think you should put a little money in Bitcoin, that was the first thing they said. Well, what about SBF? And I said, it's not the same. It's not the same. So I think people are really trying to understand what it is. And honestly, I just don't think the FOMO is going to set in until people are like, oh, 100K. Wow. It's such an arbitrary number, but it's also one of those numbers that's like, ding, ding, ding. I have to get in on this. Let's jump on the train.
Yeah, I really feel like with the 100K, it allows people to be able to grasp from 100K to $1 million or even $10 million over time. But while we're sitting at 68,623 right now, $70,000 to $1 million, it just seems too much. I think like 100,000, you can break it down into 10. It's just an easier number for people. Like, it's less work for the brain, I guess, which is crazy. It's 30% more expensive. You're getting less Satoshis per dollar. Do you reckon, like, from an education side of things or a psychological side of things, like, do you have any understanding of how that works, or maybe why people think that way?
It's bizarre, because you should see it's that Bitcoin meme we see all the time of nobody lining up for the low number of Bitcoin, everyone lining up for the high number of Bitcoin. I think people are more afraid of losing money than gaining money, than they are, encouraged by gaining money. It's just a psychological thing. And so I think everyone's looking for a silver bullet. And I mean, Bitcoin really can be that silver bullet. It really can lift people out of poverty and out of the rat race. It's just they have to look at it differently. They have to get out of the fiat mindset. So, I mean, we're going to be launching another Bitcoin episode right in October.
Let's go.
So I think by then, my estimate is we'll be past 100K, if not more. And I think by then there will be a bit of a feeding frenzy. And I think, our politicians are only going to make it more of an issue and more in the spotlight. So I'm excited.
Talking about politicians and Bitcoin being an issue, we'll dive into the block clock in a sec. But huge shift from Trump, you know, from where he was a couple of years ago, or even where Larry Fink was a couple of years ago. But then on the other side, like Biden and Elizabeth Warren, they're sort of like doubled down on that, which is like it's far left versus far right. At the moment, the far right's going more with Bitcoin, but Bitcoin's just politically neutral. It really doesn't care. Do you see both sides embracing Bitcoin, or are they going to go further and further apart? And one side's going to be like, no, that thing that the far right's talking about, we don't want anything to do with that, and we're going to sign up everyone that's a bad thing. Like, do you have any, I guess, guesses? We won't know until we know, but thoughts about how it could play out?
I mean, I just think it's clear that anyone who stands against crypto and Bitcoin is going to get demolished. So many people, their hope is tied in Bitcoin. And if you shut the escape hatches, like Christine is talking about, like, you are angering millions and millions of people. You will see what desperation looks like. And so I think people, when the economy is at stake, when their livelihood's at stake, they come out of the woodwork and they move things. And so I think Biden would be an idiot to come out against it. And I think we've seen the softening of that. Like, there's no more assembling an anti-crypto army talk anymore. I think they've realized that they've awakened a monster of the people on both sides of the aisle that have adopted crypto and Bitcoin. And I'm here for it. I love it.
It's a very interesting time. Let's just jump into the block height. Block height 847,669, 68,582 is the price in US dollars today. However, one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. If we can get this to load, we'll bring up the Satoshis per dollar at 1,458. Super good deal for every $1, 1,458 units of a Bitcoin. That's absolutely incredible. This number over time is only going to go down and down dramatically. Block height is working 9 minutes and 54 seconds. Just for everyone, I will bring up today's sponsor really quickly, the Bitcoin Way. They can help you get your Bitcoin off the exchange, get into self-custody, run a node, have an air-gapped, airtight setup. Cybersecurity experts used to work for Steve Jobs. We've got a video coming out in a moment, 25 years in the area. Safe Dina Moose, who you brought up earlier, Johnny, the author of the Bitcoin Standard. The Bitcoin Way is the service I have always wanted. And they can help people become totally self-sovereign, ungovernable, helping people and families get a second passport as well. First 30 minutes is free. Link them at the top of the description. One thing I'd ask for everyone, check them out. It's free. Make sure everything is air-gapped and airtight. And smash the like if you can. We had like the FOMC meeting this morning, Johnny, and there is this video that I have of Jerome Powell here that I'd like to bring up full screen. Just give me a moment. And it's a minute 30, everyone. And so I'll play it in full, and then I'll get Johnny's thoughts here on Papa Powell.
Message to Americans who are seeing encouraging economic data, but don't feel good about this economy.
I don't think anyone knows, has a definitive answer why people are not as happy about the economy as they might be. And we don't tell people how they should think or feel about the economy. That's not our job. People experience what they experience. All I can tell you is what the data show, which is we've got an economy that's growing at a solid pace. We've got a very strong labor market with unemployment at 4%. It's been a long time since we've had a long stretch of time with unemployment at or below 4%, very long time. We had a period of high inflation. Inflation has come down really significantly, and we're doing everything we can to bring that inflationary episode fully to a halt and fully restore price stability. We're confident that we'll get there. And in the meantime, it's going to be painful for people, but the ultimate pain would be a period of long period of high inflation. It is people who, lower income people at the margins of the economy who have the worst experience, who experience the most pain from inflation. So, it's for those people, for all Americans, but particularly for those people that we're doing everything we can to bring inflation back down under control.
To me, Johnny, inflation is down and the lower and middle class are suffering the most. He doesn't care what people think. They're not there to dictate what people think. But is that true? Like, is inflation actually down over the last couple of years? And what is sort of some of the takeaways from that programming that Papa Powell put on the world stage this morning?
I mean, to me, this is the equivalent of a patient coming into the doctor and saying, "Doctor, oh, I'm hurting." And then the doctor saying, No, you're not. You're not hurting. The tumor is just a little bit bigger. And, it's never going to shrink down, that tumor, but it's just growing more slowly. And it's just such gaslighting to me. That obviously inflation hurts, as we say in the show, inflation hurts a nation, but it's a tax on the poor even more. And I mean, this is the danger of central planning, where you think you can cure everything by manipulating everything. And I mean, it wasn't until recently that I looked up, you can go to shadow government statistics, and you can see that even the measuring stick of inflation, CPI, is not what it used to be. They're manipulating it. They're manipulating their own scorecards. They're the ones, giving themselves a pat on the back as the best doctor in the world when, here we are, a patient with a massive tumor. Our economy's dying. And yeah, I don't know. I just think it's hilarious that this man has this much power.
It's really incredible. Obviously, Bitcoin does fix this when you go down that rabbit hole. I don't think it really takes that long to be able to understand. I think after 10 hours, you're definitely going to put in 100 hours. Once you get into 100 hours, and then it just, for me, at least, I can only talk for myself and the experiences I've seen with other people, is that 100 hours quickly turns into 1,000 hours, and then it just becomes integrated into your life. With more and more people waking up, the number goes up, it brings more people in. Obviously, they're going to start to learn what this is. Do you think the Federal Reserve, say, like looking out 10, 20, 30 years, 50 years, however long, are they going to stay with their current power? Or do you think maybe Bitcoin does fix this?
I think it's going to get a lot worse before it gets a lot better. I think we're in the US, and I think we see this in many of the countries, we're in a debt spiral, where pretty soon, I think it's within a matter of 2 or 3 years, like in the US, the interest on our taxes will only cover the interest on the debt. And so that's just, you can't do anything but massively print your way out of that. And that's going to be a hyperinflation just prophecy. And so, I mean, I have hope that the government can wean themselves off the money printer, but just think of it in the way it's like heroin. It is the most addictive substance you could ever, a government could ever take, right? And just like you can't tell someone who's on heroin to drop it cold turkey, like I think we can't do that with the government without massive pain and withdrawal symptoms. And so, I mean, I'm encouraged that the Bitcoin Magazine guys are in Trump's ear and are floating this idea of, backing our bonds with just a basket of goods, even 1%, 2%. I think that's how you get us off. And I mean, it could be a situation where if Trump goes in the office and he has Vivek in his ear as well, who wanted to disband a lot of our central intelligence goons, that would be fantastic. And I think there could be a situation of shrinking the government somewhat. But it is like in one of our episodes, we kind of break it down as the Leviathan that it is. The government never shrinks down. It only grows and it grows and it grows. And so without massive pain, like you're seeing in Argentina, I don't think the government will shrink down until we're at that breaking point. And then I think Bitcoin will be the logical, life raft. It will fix it. But I think we have to feel that problem really, really hard before it does.
Yeah. Johnny, what is, when you talk about pain, what type of pain do you see? Just financial pain, or do you see civil unrest, riots, total chaos? It looks like the end of the world, or is it just going to be more of what we have now, where there is a rise in homelessness, but people are just, they get out loans and stuff and they just die economically inside, and I guess spiritually inside, or do you think it could be a total uprising? And
I mean, I think it's the former. I think it's a total uprising, or at least the people who are so. I mean, they realize the game's rigged. Everyone realizes the game is rigged. Their parents could afford a house. Millennials are the first generation worse off than their parents, and it's like, yeah, house is out of reach. And I think the ire will be directed towards big businesses. It'll be directed towards the government as well. It'll be directed towards everyone, but not many people know just the insidiousness of the Federal Reserve, and that's the root of the problem. So I don't know. I certainly hope we can onboard as many people as we can before crap hits the fan. I really do look at Bitcoin as like, it's the one thing I can listen to these podcasts that gives me hope. I can listen to any other news channel and it's just fear and dread. And Bitcoin is like, okay, yeah. The world is worth living in. Yeah, it's worth bringing kids into this world. It's worth, building something in this world. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, same with me. My wife will often say, like, Sean, everything you talk about is so negative. And I need to stop and think, because I don't feel like that, because I'm looking at everything through that Bitcoin lens. So I'm aware of everything that's going on. But truly, at least for myself, is when you have that hope, that light that is Bitcoin, you understand, you're like, oh, cool. It's just time to be able to do it. And yeah, if we can bring as many people onto this life raft as possible. Yesterday on my live stream had a comment there from one of the legends in the chat. And the point of getting up every day is Bitcoin can change our lives very quickly and it doesn't take long. But what's the point of being in this world, having abundance, wealth, health, spiritual unfoldment, if everything around you is dystopian, if everyone's so busy with work and stuff, the water's flat as, got a little bit going on at the moment, but can basically go out there at any time. But everyone else is working. There's nobody to play with, in a way. And the lower it can stay, for the longer it can stay, the more people that can come here, the quicker we move to that world. Do you feel that as well? When you're orange pilling people, it's not that you want to indoctrinate them in a bad way. It's just that for you, or for myself, I just believe Bitcoin is the best thing to be able to create the best life for anyone out there. And I want people to, you can't orange pill anyone, but you can lead a horse to water, and it's up to the horse if it drinks. What are your thoughts around the orange pilling side of things? Is there a selfishness within you that you just want to be around people that are abundant and they've got the time to be able to think, or is there a different reason?
I mean, for me, my primary motivation, at least for my family, is just guys, I can see what's coming. I would love for you to enjoy life and to not, be caught in this devastating thing. So to me, it's that. That's why I want to orange pill my family. And I think all of them are sick of me talking about Bitcoin to their own levels. The one guy. Right. But I think enough of them. I think that when we start to go up, I think enough of them will hit me up. And I've been able to convince a few. I think when we do our work in the show, basically what we realized was, 100% of our audience is going to agree with the problem that our money's broken. Whether or not they agree with Bitcoin as the solution is up to them. But I mean, maybe there's 50% of the audience that'll agree, and maybe the other 50% will look into it more. And they'll at least be like, hey, Tuttle Twins, we had somebody comment, and they were like, man, your show is so good and you have so many good principles, and then you just go shill Bitcoin. What's with that? And it's could it be that Bitcoin is maybe a good principle? It's a good idea, maybe. And I think we built up enough rapport that, I mean, even if they don't agree with Bitcoin, at least they'll be like, well, I trust Tuttle Twins on a lot of other things. Okay, I'll look into it. That's all we're asking. We're not trying to pump our bags. We're just trying to tell kids and parents, look into this. And, we were the first cartoon to make an episode about Bitcoin. So it was kind of cool. It was a little bit risky, but it became our #1 viewed cartoon ever. So it was pretty cool just to see the wave of Bitcoiners behind it.
Yeah, it's amazing. Hey, like when Bitcoiners, like their on-chain sleuths to the matrix, they'll find whatever there is within the interwebs. And if it's high signal content, like your Bitcoin episode and stuff, they're almost like, I understand when people call Bitcoins psychopaths. I truly do, because they're psychos for the truth, for uncovering reality. And if something will help them push across maybe their own convictions from going down the rabbit hole in a couple of minute cartoon or a video clip as well. Like you really do see that playing out. I want to bring this up for, not that one. We've already looked at Papa Powell. They're everyone's finest uncle. Season 3 begins May 7th, 2024. Is season 3 that's out now?
Yeah, so we release our seasons 1 episode at a time on the first Tuesday of every month. It's a bit untraditional, but it's as fast as we can make them. So you can go to angel.com/Tuttle Twins, and maybe we can put it in the description.
We will.
You can watch our show for free, seasons 1 and 2. And then if you want to see season 3, join the live stream or join something called the Angel Guild, which is a monthly subscription where you can get all the new episodes and behind the scenes stuff for that price. So, and it's a way of just funding the show and funding, if you want us to keep making content like this, it's a way of us to be funded outside of Hollywood and outside of government control. So,
and why wouldn't you want to be funded by Hollywood or be funded by the government? Why don't you just take their money?
It would be easy. I mean, subsidies are amazingly easy to get. But yeah, I mean, subsidies are basically robbing taxpayers, like forcing them to give you money. Like our money, our taxpayer money, at least in the US, goes to fund all sorts of like very raunchy, mature movies and shows that I'm sure most of the people here would never support. But still, they're getting handouts from the government. And so we just said, nope, we're not doing it. Literally billions of dollars go into the Hollywood, and we don't take it. And then in terms of the government, and there's, I mean, a little bit of this with Hollywood as well. Like China has Hollywood in its hand. There are things and messages, you can't say in Hollywood because they might offend a Chinese audience, a communist audience. And so we don't want to be beholden to any one power. We can have the freedom of speech to say what we want to say in the show. And of course, vetted and approved by parents to do so. And we love the freedom too much to kind of sacrifice that by selling out to those organizations.
Yeah, two questions on that. The Cuba episode was, I think, right on the edge. I was like, wow, this is absolutely amazing. So based. Was there any anxiety about pushing that out and pushing against that narrative?
Yeah, it's funny because like everything Cuba puts out shows it as this beautiful utopian place. But then in our research on that episode, we actually spent hours researching people who had actually gone to Cuba and how totalitarian it really is, especially if you're going to show the dark side of Cuba, like people getting arrested, cameras confiscated, things like that. So yeah, I mean, I don't remember at the time. I think we thought it would be a little edgy, but yeah, nobody else was talking. I think Obama had done a press tour to show, Cuba, look how beautiful it is. And we're like, no, look how bad it is. Look how bad it is today. It's still bad. Communism has wrecked it. And so the funny part is like we got some flack from like communist Reddit for that episode, but it absolutely went bonkers in our Spanish channel. We translated it into Spanish, and the people in South America were like, this is representative of what's happening to my country. And so, we can, in the land of the free, we can talk all we want how this is not representing what's really happening. But then the people suffering from socialism down in South America, they are absolutely like gobbling it up and saying like, I agree with this. This is amazing. No one else is talking about this. I think we even had in Argentina, after Malay came into office, a public broadcaster broadcast Tuttle Twins to the masses there, which is really funny to hear about after
Wow.
the fact. We're like, I'm not sure there was a license for that, but whatever. Great.
That's awesome, and I guess it sort of relates to something before as well, with not taking money from the government, so that you could say what you believe to be true. Those principles, and we see, I think, Jason Mercer, more pride in standing on your own 2 feet. Did you always have that integrity come about, or that's something that you've grown into and developed either with Bitcoin or just maturing as an adult?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone has their own journey. We even have, writers on the show or actors on the show who have pseudonyms, right? Where they're like, I don't know if I want all of Hollywood mad at me or to be on a government watch list. So I can't speak for everyone, but in terms of my experience, courage is a muscle that you practice, and you get stronger and stronger and bolder. And I think you can draw strength from research and from just living authentically. And so that's definitely how it's been for me, where at first I was very much more timid. But now I'm much more, open to saying freely what I think, and also listening and having critical thinking skills when I'm wrong. So yeah, I would say, I mean, we've seen that with the kids that watch Tuttle Twins too, where, we did an episode on civil disobedience, and some kids, are civilly disobeying their parents and saying, we don't want to clean our room. And, we got some complaints there, but we told the kids, prepare to accept the consequences. Some kids went to school and they refused to do mask mandates. They got sent to the principal's office. And so we're like, man, these kids are learning. They're getting more courageous as they learn. So it's really cool to see.
That's absolutely awesome. One question here is, where is the show? I've linked the first episode. We'll put the Angel as well. But I guess just on this topic, you said people can jump onto Angel and they can support the show as well. Like, go into it. Let people know. I'm sure there's a lot of parents here that have young kids. I love them. Like, I love the episodes for myself. I enjoy watching them. I think every Bitcoiner would enjoy them if they're just looking for something that's still high signal, but maybe not as serious as some of the things that are going on. For kids, I think it is the best. I've sent it to the nieces and nephews, or the niece and nephews as well. But like, how can people support the show? How can they get behind you? Are you just doing any more crowdfunding, or like anything for the audience that would be beneficial for you and your mission? If you can let them know, Johnny, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Yeah. I mean, the number one way you can help support the show is honestly just watch it and share it with others. The first 2 seasons are free. Go to angel.com/Tuttle Twins. We actually have, the US is our number 1 market, but Brazil has come out of the woodwork, Australia too. And so, lots of parents are finding value from this. We meant it for a global audience. And then, if you love it, you can join, you can subscribe. There's like a freemium model where the first 2 seasons are free. But if you want to watch the 3rd season, you can pay $12 a month to support the show and get access to other perks like that. So that's how we get funding is all through fans. And so we are beholden to our fans. Yeah, we don't make anything that you don't want. So it's a virtuous cycle.
Absolutely awesome. And one thing as well, if people aren't willing to pay for season 3, I believe that you'll air that for free early next year, if I'm correct.
Yeah. It'll eventually be free. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Probably early 2025, it'll be free. So yeah.
Cool. Absolutely awesome. I see Bitcoin Buddha there in the chat. I love his enthusiasm. You can tell he really is passionate. What I'd like to do is, like, what's on your mind at the minute? I think like Wall Street, just the narrative around it. I'm not against, I'm not for holding the ETF, not your keys, not your coins, hold Bitcoin in self-custody. Really not hard. But like, sort of, where's your head a little bit, like, for the next, I guess, 2 years of Bitcoin, where the top of the cycle sort of usually does, either price prediction or just how you think people are going to come into the space, or what's of interest for the last part of the cycle.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably drinking the Kool-Aid too much, but just looking at past cycles, I think it's very likely we could hit 500K at the top of the cycle by the end of 2025. And I don't know. I mean, I think if you see Bitcoin eat a certain percentage of gold this cycle, that could be very feasible. The biggest bank in China just basically vetted Bitcoin and said it's has all the properties of gold, but it's better. And so we haven't even seen China come into this market. It's all been Hong Kong, right? And so I think game theory, I think we're right on that chasm of the adoption curve of, before the early majority steps in. I think everyone always thinks they're too late, but I honestly think, we're going to see that divergence of Bitcoin from all the crap coins. And people seeing it as an asset class that has the rubber stamp of approval of mainstream people. And you already see like MicroStrategy leading the way with companies, and you have so many Me Too companies popping up, and you see the Bitcoin effect, right? With Selmer Scientific, with what's the other ones? The one in Japan,
Metaplanet.
Metaplanet, that's right.
Yeah,
and yeah, just the effect of Bitcoin on the balance sheet. I think if GameStop, with all the hubbub around GameStop, if they were to put their cash reserves into Bitcoin, that would bridge all the gamblers with all the Bitcoiners. There would be, I think there would be explosions of prosperity. So I'm very optimistic, but then again, I'm also just like looking long term and very optimistic for the future, whether or not we reach incredibly high numbers this cycle.
Yeah, it's sort of like a catch-22. Obviously, the higher it goes, the less that we can buy, and I'm still buying. But the higher it goes, the more people that come into the space and start chasing it as well, which is also beneficial. So for me, selfishly, I like it cheap, but I think it's inevitable. And the higher the price goes, the more people that will be exposed to it. And that GameStop, have been thinking about it lately. Did you watch that video with Roaring Kitty? He did his live stream.
Yeah.
That I don't know. That was strange. Like that felt like a total psyop. The dude was all over the place drinking and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know. Last time he was way more articulate, more factual, more entertaining, more engaging, had a good thesis behind it. And now he's just like, I don't know. So if they don't adopt the strategy, I don't think if he doesn't change, a Roaring Kitty, Keith Gill, doesn't change much, I don't see it doing much. But if GameStop does adopt Bitcoin, I can see Keith coming back just on fire, lit up, and I'm probably with you on that. And I think it will be absolutely insane. Crazy pump. I think it will go through a massive dump as well. Probably. If they were to adopt Bitcoin, it'd probably outperform Bitcoin to the upside, but it'd outperform it to the downside as well. And that's personally, it's not something I'm interested in, but that's just a thesis I could see playing out. I guess, as we wrap it up, what is the message for, I guess, people to be able to share with their kids? Maybe parents are really busy working, the fiat economy, they're obviously doing the right thing, they're buying, stacking, chilling, they're working towards escaping the rat race, but while they're still doing that, they may not have the time to homeschool their parents. Their kids are still going off to the indoctrination camps, which is the current school system. What type of message for parents that are in that situation or a similar situation would you like to hear for yourself, I guess?
Yeah, I definitely empathize with parents. I feel the same. I have 3 kids, and it is an indoctrination camp out there. Inflation is such a beast. We have an episode all about the inflation monster. And so, I would say kids are incredibly smart. They're way smarter than we give them credit for. And we try and make your job easier, parents. Like, that's what our goal is. It's like, if you agree with these principles of sound economics and Bitcoin and limited government, maybe vet our show and see if it would be good for them to watch. We want to make your job easier, and we want your kids to be triggered by some of the things we are. we hear about Tuttle fans all the time, at dinner or in the grocery stores, just like complaining to their parents about the inflation monster. It's funny, but it's also like, wow, those kids are miles ahead of where I was at their age, and just the level of understanding they can come to is super impressive. So I would say keep going. There's so much to hope for. And yeah, if Tuttle Twins is a resource that you'd like, it's free. So check it out.
100% high signal right there. Rapid fire question, Mr. Android. Who does the animation, and how long does it usually take to create an episode? And if you're willing, how much does it cost to create an episode?
Yeah, I can speak high level. So yeah, we have a few animation houses. The one we're using right now, we always have to be like, okay, are you taking subsidies or no? So it's a vetting process. And are you good? But we're using an animation house in Ireland. They're awesome. It takes about 7 months from beginning to end to make one episode. So we'll see. Wow. It's a lot longer than I thought it was, and it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. So yeah, so it's a lot that goes into it. Hopefully, AI will speed things up for us. But yeah, it's a labor of love.
That's absolutely awesome. And Bitcoin Buddha here is saying, Johnny, thanks for trying to make a difference. The only way to change the world is to teach the next generation. I truly appreciate what you're doing. I've put all your links below for everyone watching live, watching the replay. If you can, smash the like button. Share this with a parent out there that has young kids that are subject maybe to propaganda that's not beneficial. Obviously, vet these episodes, enjoy them yourself, do something nice for yourself, for somebody else, and have a beautiful day. Be blessed. Peace. Thanks, Johnny.
Thank you.